We welcome in from ESPN. We miss her here in Omaha covering the College World Series, but you will see her as you did this past weekend between Nebraska and Tennessee and Knoxville. You'll see her in Oklahoma City with the Women's College World Series from ESPN. Here joining us, thanks to our good friends at Allstate and the NACDA Good Works team, is ESPN's Holly Rowe. Good morning, Holly.
Good morning. I sure enjoyed this Nebraska softball team this past weekend. We saw three incredible games. It was a blast.
Holly, first off, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I want to let you know that admire of your work and everything that you've done over at ESPN and for women's sports. I got to ask you, Carlin Pickens versus Jordy Ball. You've seen a lot of sports. You've seen a lot of softball. Where does that pitching matchup rank for you in terms of seeing it with your own eyes?
Well, I think you could arguably say these are two of the three best pitchers in the country right now, and to see them in the same circle going against each other, it was incredible. And to not only see them pitching, but to see Carlin Pickens throwing to Jordy Ball. You know, Jordy's a great pitcher, but she's been hitting this year. She leads the team hitting over 438. And there was a moment where Carlin Pickens threw a pitch. It broke the NCAA record for fastest pitch ever recorded in women's softball, 79.4 miles per hour. And Jordy fouled it off.
Yeah.
Jordy got a piece of it. And so it looked like two alpha predators going against each other. And there was one point Jordy, strikes out and looks back to Pickens like, I'll be back. And it was just like great sports theater. It was just so fun.
Hey, going on at the same time was the Nebraska-Penn State Big Ten baseball tournament, and Pickens actually was throwing harder than the Penn State pitcher at the time. But one of the things,
that's cool.
Well, you could have shared that little nugget. One of the things that I really appreciated about you, and this has kind of been your career on the sidelines or play-by-play, you love to tell the stories of the student athletes or the professional athletes that you cover that take them to a whole different level outside of the uniform. And thank you, by the way, for clarifying. Everybody was wondering, what is the little circle that was in the back pocket of the Tennessee players? You told about the poker chip. But one of the things that you've heavily got involved in is the Good Works team. And we're familiar with it around here because Nebraska, Creighton, and Omaha have been involved in it from Allstate. Why is it so special to you? And then I think I answered the question because the one that was named the spring captain, Jamie Morris from Penn State, has a story that you can relate to.
Yeah, it's really, I'm glad you brought that up because I got involved with the Allstate NACTA Good Works team because they are telling stories of young people in your communities and athletes that you're cheering for and rooting for that aren't getting told enough. And I want to share, Jamie Morris is a young woman. She plays golf at Penn State, and her mother was diagnosed with cancer when she was in high school. And Jamie, she felt helpless and how can I help and what can I do? And so she's a golfer. So she started a golf tournament. She had been in kind of a putt, hit and drive competition at the Masters as a young golfer. And she thought, well, I can do that here in Cleveland. And so she started this golf tournament and she has raised almost $300,000 that goes to cancer research and to families who might need rides or transportation to cancer treatments in the Cleveland area. She's partnered with a hospital there. And so I'm passionate about this because we get to see every day these young athletes incredible on the field, incredible in the circle, what they're doing. But man, they are even better at what they're doing in the community to help people's lives. And I want us to shine a spotlight on that. And I'm really grateful that Allstate's letting us do this because we just don't hear these stories enough. And I'm vowing to make sure that we do.
Holly, you've been around this industry for a very, very long time and have done great work. And we've seen in these last couple of years, right, the explosion of women's sports. And I think we immediately, talk about the Caitlin Clark effect, and we talk about the superstars that we've seen emerge and the great athletes. But in your opinion, is there another reason why we've seen women's sports grow so much? Is there kind of a beneath the surface level reason you think that we've seen, just sports like women's basketball, women's softball grow so much over the last couple of years?
I do. I think there's two big factors. The number one factor to me is opportunity. I'm really proud of my company, ESPN. We started putting big women's games, like you'll know this from your Nebraska volleyball coverage.
Yeah.
The volleyball national championship moving to ABC, getting better program windows, moving to ESPN, gosh, it used to be on like NCAA Productions. That was the first time I ever came to Lincoln and saw Nebraska volleyball in person. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's something special here.
Wow.
So I really applaud the networks, but we were the first to put it on mainstream, big time network television. And it got such great ratings. It was the proof of concept, but why did it get such great ratings? And here's what I think. Social media has allowed fans, and the internet has allowed fans who love certain sports to be these incredible niche audiences. Like if you go on social media for gymnastics or volleyball or swimming and diving or softball, that's where these communities have lived and thrived and gotten really big because they didn't have another outlet. They weren't seeing their sports on SportsCenter or whatever. And so women's sports have a bigger, more popular, and we've seen this with brands sponsoring kids. The women athletes, I think there was a stat we had in March Madness of the top 5 athletes in the country this year for NIL opportunities, marketing and
Sure.
social media opportunities. 4 of the 5 were women. Cooper Flagg was the only man that was in the top 5. And that tells me that the fans and the fan bases are clamoring for these athletes because they're not getting them served on some of the mainstream platforms, and they want more of them. And so I think social media has really been a help to drive that. And it's like a democracy. Everybody,
Sure.
people get to say who's popular on social media, and what we're finding is a lot of times it's the female athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, and they will be showcased in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma is back home again in Oklahoma City for the 9th straight time, but they're not the predominant favorite. Who are some of the teams you are going to look for in Oklahoma City beginning later this week?
Yeah, I think what's fun about this softball tournament this year is it's wide open. Literally any of the 8 teams who are going to Oklahoma City can win it. And I don't think we've had it that way for many years now. Oklahoma has been so dominant, and make no mistake, Oklahoma can win it again this year. I think they would just have to have a lot of help, and they would have to, and they are peaking at the right time, but their pitching would have to be absolutely perfect. I think Florida is a team that not a lot of people are talking about that is rounding into form and peaking at the right moment. And then this is kind of wild, but no one would have ever said this before, but Texas Tech is a team to keep your eye out for. They haven't been to the Women's College World Series. You've heard the story. They pay Stanford's ace, who had gotten them to the World Series 2 straight years, Nigeri Kennedy, and they pay her $1,054,000, and she goes to Texas Tech, and she's done her job. She's gotten that team to the World Series, and it was so cute. We saw Patrick Mahomes is part of that NIL collective and helping pay people at Texas Tech. Like, he was a big factor in getting Nigeri to Texas Tech, and he's out shooting a commercial, and they're primping him and getting him in his suit and getting his makeup on, and he's got his phone on watching Texas Tech softball, and he's tweeting at her. And so I'm hoping that Patrick Mahomes comes to the World Series in Oklahoma City. But I think that's a team that nobody would have thought of or be talking about. And they're a team she is that good and that dominant. And then, of course, UCLA, UCLA lingers in the woods. They've had kind of an up and down season. And here they are going on the road and getting back to the World Series where they have lived. They've been in the NCAA tournament 33 straight years. So I think it's pretty cool.
Hey, we had you here in Omaha over at UNO back in April. How do we get you back for the Men's College World Series?
Oh my gosh, I would love to do it. I have done it before back in the old days when it was at Rosenblatt. I definitely love it. I would always be up for that. My only challenge is I have been working pretty much every weekend since August. And so as soon as the Women's College World Series ends, I get to come up for a breath of air. Well, I actually have a WNBA game the next day, and then I get to come up for a breath of air.
Hey, Holly.
Everyone's like, you got to take time off, Holly. And I'm like, I am. I have 2 weeks in June. That's my time.
Hey, we appreciate your work. You know that we're big fans here in Nebraska of everything that you do for the female and male student athletes. And keep up the great work. Enjoy Oklahoma City, and we'll see you back here in Nebraska sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Games start on the 29th, noon Eastern. You'll see some killer games. So tune in and get to know more about Allstate. Jamie Morris, that was just an incredible experience. She's raised over $300,000 for cancer, and I'm glad that we're showcasing her. Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks, Holly.
Thank you, Holly.
That's Holly Rowe from ESPN. Of course, she is a big ambassador, again, for the Allstate NACDA Good Works team, where you can find information online. And you saw Holly this past weekend.